All right. Hey, everybody. Jimmy D and the Wolf.
Hello, hello. We are navigating our way through a massive glitch in the Matrix right now. Things are a little bit strange in this particular universe of late.
Yeah.
Everybody chill out. Take a deep breath. We talked in the last podcast, we were talking about a little bit of psychology. Neither of us have degrees in psychology or anything, but it's fascinating. We discussed how the brain, the subconscious mind, can work through problems and how it actually takes in far more information than the conscious mind. And I've experienced a great deal of this in the last couple of years in my life of like stopping and analyzing things and doing meditations daily and trying to focus my energies and my thoughts in a different way. And it's changed my whole life, you know, because so many people are convinced that it's on a autopilot sort of thing and they're not in control of their own realities. It's interesting because I've seen people in life that are very, very successful. One in particular comes to mind, but I'm not going to say any names. People that are very successful that maybe aren't really great at what they do. They just have such a strong belief that they can do it.
Yeah, belief is so important.
Yeah, it's everything. And I see it in day-to-day life that these people get in these positions of power solely because they knew that they could do it. I mean, that a human being's belief in themselves is just a massively powerful thing.
It is.
And it comes back to that quote, man, that Henry Ford quote that I have it written on the wall in my garage of whether you think you can or whether you think you cannot, either way, you're right. I think that those are maybe some of the truest words that a human being has ever spoken, because I see it every day. People with not a whole lot of talent become incredibly successful. Did they work harder than the next guy? Probably not. It's just that belief in themselves, you know. It's a very powerful thing. And talking about independent musicians, that's maybe the key ingredient to any indie artist.
I think analyzing individuals who succeeds and who doesn't, we're not very good at predicting. It's like a very complex machine.
Yes, it is.
That spins a bunch of wheels and is like that are turning, and what gets spit out at the other end, we don't have an understanding. I mean, how many successful people report that they were told by a teacher at some point in their K-12 life? I can't think of any specific examples right now, but many, many times when I love biographies and autobiographies and history of documentaries, whatever it is, and people talk about where they came from, and over the people who reach the highest levels of whatever field they're in, so many times they were told somewhere along the line that they were never going to amount to anything, that they couldn't succeed, that they couldn't, that they just didn't have any success possibility. And who was I just reading? Which I can't remember the reference, but the person was saying that their mom, there was a note that was given to them. Was that on one of the podcasts? It was a note that was given to them that their mom only was supposed to read it, and they gave it to their mom, and their mom started crying and read it to them and said, your child is too smart for this school. We don't have enough teachers to teach your
What a great teacher to recognize that.
Well, let me finish. You're too smart for this school. We don't have enough teachers to handle the brilliance of your child. Would you please teach your son from home? And that son, man, I'm going to have to research this and put this in the video. The son reached the highest levels in their field, and later on they discovered that letter after their mom died, and what it actually said was, "Your son is too stupid. We cannot teach your son. Please keep him at home."
Wow.
And his mother, now whether this is a true story or not, it has truth in it.
It absolutely
and
does.
the belief of a parent and supporting and not allowing that to affect their son and staying home. And
it's a powerful story.
Powerful story.
Yeah, and truly brilliant people don't always necessarily fit well into the existing parameters of the education system. So it's, there was a great Einstein quote of everybody's a genius, but if you gauge a fish's intelligence by its ability to climb a tree, it'll spend its whole life thinking that it's stupid. And it's true. It's absolutely true. Because everybody sort of has their own kind of superpower, like their own different kind of intelligence. Some people are incredibly book smart, incredibly well read. Some people are incredibly efficient with mechanisms. Some people are incredibly people smart, on a social level. Some people are incredibly street smart. It's fascinating to me because the avenues of public education don't always set those people up for success. And the things that just aren't taught in public education, they don't teach you survivalist skills. They don't show you how to do your taxes. They don't show you how to generate passive income. They don't really teach you a whole lot about business or, how the world really, really, really works. Many of us come out of high school and go, well, none of that got me ready for this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, the medicine that they give kids with ADHD really inhibits their creativity.
Yeah, and it's a disservice to a lot of our brilliant minds, our younger brilliant minds. And, if I would have come up in that generation, it's hard telling what they would have put me on because I was that kid. I was kicking the back of somebody's desk and, doing this all day and chewing on my pencil and tapping and humming. And it wasn't that there was anything wrong with me. It wasn't because I had attention deficit disorder. I wanted to be at home playing my guitar through my incredibly loud amplifier. I didn't want to be there. I wanted to rock out, you know what I mean? And that didn't make me dumber than any of the other kids in my class. And what was interesting is even my senior year, I was working at a restaurant and playing gigs and making more money than anybody that I knew in my whole school. I was working. While some of my teachers were looking at me like, what's wrong with you? Are you stupid? It's like, I'm getting paid, bud. You know what I mean? It's like...
Well, there are a couple of the people that I've studied from or have taken their courses, listened to their podcasts. One would be Russell Brunson. Yeah. Russell Brunson, while he was in college and while he was wrestling is an incredibly, especially at the college level, incredibly even being a college athlete, most college athletes redshirt, take an extra year, and don't really, like if it's football, NCAA football or basketball, they almost get a pass. They don't even have to go to class. They get to, because if they're that level of an athlete. And wrestling is not, a glamorous sport. I wrestled in high school. You wrestled in high school. Sure. And it takes, cutting weight, and it takes a bit more. Abusing yourself. It takes a bit more than just playing other sports. And he was a wrestler, and actually I think he was second in the nation. He was a phenomenal wrestler, Russell was. And while he was doing all that, he was starting to build a business, and he was making, I think, 6 figures before he graduated college.
It's fascinating.
And So same with Simon Tam. Shout out to Simon Tam, who we listened to his podcast. I heard him speak at DIY Musicians Conference.
Incredible.
He's incredible. And while he was in college, I hope I got it right, Simon, he now is the most, he did say that at the last year's at Austin at DIY Musicians Conference. He has spoken at more TED Talks. He's given more TED Talks than anyone else in the world. And he said that. And what he started that when he was in college. And he had just had the idea that he was going to give TED Talks. And he said, we didn't listen to that presentation. He gave 2 presentations at the DIY. And he mentioned it. But in the other presentation, which we didn't listen to, he said that he decided he was going to give TED Talks. And and apparently there's these gatekeepers. There were like 300 gatekeepers that he sent letters to asking to try to speak at their TED Talk. Yeah. And he got 299 rejections. But he got 1 yes. So he went and spoke at that 1 yes. And then after he did that, he recontacted the other 299 saying, I've given a TED Talk. You need to
I'm a keynote speaker.
I'm a keynote speaker.
Legit.
It's legit. Here, I've spoken already at a TED Talk.
And that guy, I love that guy because he is such a kind of forward-thinking opportunist. He turns every event into a plus for himself. Everything is forward movement. Like we've talked about the different personality types in sales.
Yeah.
Like you have the amiable and the
analytical
and the expressive and the driver. I would assume, I don't know the man personally, but I would assume that he's high on the driver spectrum because he's turned every event into something that's a win for him. And that's great, man. That's all mindset. And it's proof that, the average person sends out 300 emails and gets 299 no's. The average person says, this isn't for me. And it's that whole glass half full thing. And Simon Tam saw that and said, hey, that's a yes. 1 yes. That's the only thing he saw was that 1 yes. And I love that about him because it's so forward. These are the people that make the world a better place, man. It's so forward thinking and forward moving. And now, like you said, he's been on more TED Talks than anything. And the guy is a warehouse of information. Listening to him talk.
Yeah. And his band, The Slants, he says that they're the only all Asian dance band. What was it? What was the line?
I think it was like
electronic dance band in the world.
Dance band, yeah.
He had a phrase that he used to describe him.
And he's keeping the guys in his band. He's keeping their bills paid. And even the Supreme Court thing, they took a case to the Supreme Court and he met all these lawyers. And then he benefited from that.
Yeah, now he gives concerts in legal offices.
They go do
legal
gigs for legal conferences. It's awesome.
Well, he started in the anime. He started in anime conferences or conventions.
Yeah.
And he's kind of graduated. He said the lawyers can pay more than the anime conferences can.
But it's great, man, because it's proof that it's never what happens to you. It's how you react to what happened to you. So many people get wrapped up in that thing of like, oh, this happened or that happened. Well, yeah, what are you going to do about it? It's always, what are you going to do about it? And you look at that guy, man. I mean, he's just making lemonade out of everything. He's making lemonade.
Yeah.
And it's all mindset. I mean, it's not like he has supernatural abilities or anything. He just has a great mindset.
And the other thing he did, which I love, is he's a foodie. He loves food, and he realized that all the different cities he was going to, there weren't really good. The Asian foods that he liked, the Chinese food, the restaurants, were not really getting great ratings. And so he started advertising, or he was promoting his band on Yelp, of all places. No competition. There aren't any other bands doing that.
Sure.
So really thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
I just love, I hope he's at DOI conference again this year. And I look forward to going to his presentations.
Yeah,
just
August.
August in
DIY
Austin.
is, for anybody that doesn't know, that's the Do-It-Yourself Musicians Conference.
Right. Put on by CD Baby.
CD Baby, yeah.
And phenomenal organization. But another thing to consider, pulling from Tony Robbins, this is the mantra that I told you, or not mantra, but one of his phrases that I've heard him speak twice now, and he's said it in both of them, has said people overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in 10 years.
Preach. Yeah.
And I found myself falling into that. I do it for a month or a week, a month and a half, and I'm like, man, I'm not making any progress.
Sure.
But when I look back, and we were talking about this on the way back.
Oh, yeah.
Even if I just listened to production that I did a year ago.
Everything's moved so far in the last year. We've opened a handful of businesses. Yeah. We're writing way better songs.
We're not where we want to be, but we've made tremendous.
Overnight,
you don't get there overnight. Yeah, you got to stick to it and keep doing it.
It's that grind.
It's got to grind.
Most people just aren't willing to grind it out. And it comes back to that whole Tony Robbins thing of when he asked people, what's holding you back? They always know the answer. They always have the answer inside of themselves. And he just pulls it out of them. And for more people than not, if you say, well, what's really holding you back? The answer is, well, I'm just not grinding it out hard enough. Just not grinding it hard enough. Because it's not a one-day thing. It's every single day.
And then
no 0 days.
Sure.
You can't have any goose eggs, man.
And then, of course, another guy that I've been paying attention to a lot, Gary Vee. And
he's great.
Try to ignore all the F-bombs, but that's his personality, I guess. One of his things that he harps on a lot is, okay, you're saying you don't have enough money, you don't have enough time, but you have a job. Are you buying macchiato double shots?
Yeah.
$6, $7 coffees?
Sure.
Why are you buying that?
Sure.
What are you doing when you come home from work? You only work 40 hours a week. Most American people are working 40 hours a week. What are you doing with the rest of the time?
Sure.
How many hours in the week? 168, I think it is. What are you doing what are you doing the other 128? Yes, you have to sleep, but you don't sleep
you
for
have time.
100,
You're watching Netflix and all this other stuff. Well, it's the thing, it's a lot of people, they will invest all of their resources, time and money and effort and energy and recreational things, but they don't feel like it's worth investing in themselves. I hear the comment made all the time, well, I can't afford to do that. I can't afford to do that. I can't afford. Well, you can't afford not to do that. How can you afford not to do that? Because, people that take a couple vacations a year, eat out every day, say, well, I can't afford to do this thing that could change my life for forever. I can't afford to go back. I can't afford an education, or I can't afford to take this course, or I can't afford to learn dance, which is my dream, or I can't afford to take the yoga classes I've always wanted, or I can't afford to study an instrument. Well, you can't not afford to, because those are all investments in your happiness, People,
absolutely, yeah.
They invest in, especially Americans, it's the biggest thing I've noticed is like Americans will invest in their comfort, but they won't invest in their happiness. In general.
Preach.
In general.
Americans will invest in their comfort, but they won't invest. We Americans, speaking to ourselves.
Right? We're all guilty of it.
We're all guilty of it, yeah.
We have money to go spend a weekend at a casino or drop $100 for a concert or go to a sporting event or to eat restaurant food 2-3 times a day, but we don't have money to take that initial step for betterment, whatever betterment is. And every individual knows. Every person I know, if you ask them, well, what could you do to be the best version of yourself? They always know the answer.
And another thing two aphorisms that come from Gary Vee that I hear over and over from him. One is, why are you buying that? He'll ask people, what car do you drive? Well, I drive a BMW or whatever, expensive car. And he will hammer them. Why are you spending all that money buying a car to impress people you don't even like?
Exactly.
That's one of he loves to hammer on that, spending money that for false pretenses. That really don't make you happy.
Sure.
You buy this thing, but I think that's the one thing about, we were talking about millennials. I have a lot of older generation, my age, like to bash millennials. It's every
Isn't that
generation has done
crazy?
it forever.
Yeah.
But I personally, I will go on record as saying that I don't have any qualms about turning over the world to the
Oh,
millennial
man, they're
generation.
smarter than young people have ever been. And the generation behind them's even
Generation
smarter
Z,
than that.
unbelievable, blowing the doors off.
Yeah, it's unreal, man. My son's 12 and 11, and every day I'm like, man, they know stuff I didn't know until it's like,
you know, and
30.
they are very super smart, you know.
Sure.
Both of my nephews, brilliant,
absolutely.
brilliant in their own way, you know. And so, the other thing that Gary Vee likes to harp on is, and I saw that especially in South Dakota, in rural South Dakota, it's like when you, there's an expectation once you reach a certain age, you're too old for, you know, you just need to, now it's time for you to just go to the coffee shop. You go to the coffee shop and you see these guys, once you get over 40 maybe, all the farmers, and I don't know if you have it in Indiana, but they you know, at 9 o'clock, they all show up at the coffee shop and sit around and drink coffee and eat donuts and don't, you know, their life is over, basically. Life is over. You know, you can't, you might as well give up. If you haven't accomplished it now, you're never going to accomplish it. Gary Vee loves to hammer on that. And he said, why are you, at 58, just one person, I think it was 58, he says, why are you hanging up? Your life expectancy, you got another 20, 30, depending on how healthy you are, 30 years. Why are you saying your life is over? There's so much more you can do.
It almost takes until you're 40 to figure it out.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't even know what I wanted to do until I was like 40. You know. I always had music, thankfully, but...
I give props to my sister. She got her PhD after she turned 50.
See, that's wonderful.
And now she's, you know, Dr. Pam. God bless her.
Sure.
You know, and she's doing great work. You know, she goes to Mongolia and works in the Bible school there, and she's theology. I think it's practical theology is what the field, and she's doing great work. And having that, you know, having those credentials opens more doors. Absolutely. And that was something that she wanted, something she wanted to pursue. And I think that it was a tough battle. She went through a lot of difficult things to get there. For the school she went to, she started there, and halfway through her program, and they said, we're closing down the PhD program. Okay. Wow. But you can graduate, but... there were a lot of other issues, too, that she had to battle through, but one of them was they were closing down the program, and she did graduate there, but it became, you have to have people alongside you to critique and advise you and give you on your thesis, and you have to have people giving you feedback, and everyone was jumping ship. Well, who's going to stay in a program that is closing down? They're looking for greener pastures, right? So all of the other PhDs that she had, doctors that she needed to get advice from, were leaving, and so it became very difficult to get the resources she needed because everything is tapering down. Yeah, she made it, and she actually, when she defended her thesis, her husband, my brother-in-law, and I were sitting there, and they announced that she had passed with distinction, and we didn't even know that was a category. We thought it was you passed, you've defended your thesis, or you haven't. Or you've passed, but there's some stipulations that you have to shore up these pieces, which is common. And in common, it's an interesting statistic. I learned a lot about the academic world. There's something called ABD, all but dissertation. So, I mean, you get to a certain point, you get all your classwork done, all the tests that you have to take, all these different things, and then you have to do a dissertation. And according to this rough numbers she gave me, 50% of the people that get to the ABD level, all but dissertation, don't ever finish. Wow. And that's something. Now that's in I don't know if other fields are different. What a mountain to climb. You know, and she climbed that, and she not only climbed it, she climbed it with like 5% of the people get with
climbed
distinction.
Climbed it like a boss.
Climbed it like a boss, absolutely.
That's amazing.
So kudos to her.
Absolutely.
And how she accomplished that.
So, absolutely.
Anyway, she did that later in what would be typical, I think. I mean, what's your typical PhD? I mean, I think people who get it probably do it when they're maybe 30, maybe, or 20.
Yeah, I would think 30, early 30s. It'd be tough to get. I mean, you got to live. for all that stuff. So I would assume that there's many people that get PhDs where there's a little bit of a break in between, or finances get weird. Or...
There are people. I knew there was a guy in my fraternity that knew his dad was a professor of chemistry, chemical engineering, and I knew that he Mike Pianoski. Was in my fraternity, and I think he knew that was his goal, and he just went straight through. Got his bachelor's, got his master's, and got his PhD.
Nice.
Didn't stop, because he knew that's what he wanted.
Right.
Most people don't. I think most people get a bachelor's.
You get in there and kind of bang around and
bang
stuff.
around like, well, what do I want to do with my life? Do I want to get a master's?
Well, that's the whole trick to life, is figuring out what it is you really want to do.
Yeah.
You know, and it's so unfair that we are asking kids when they're 11, hey, what do you want to do with the other 85% of your life? They don't know. I mean, there's a pressure with that.
What do your sons say? I'm just curious.
My oldest, Memphis, wants to be a math teacher. He either wants to be a math teacher or a physicist. Marshall wants to be either a professional athlete or he wants to be a YouTuber, which many young people, that's their goal, is to be
viable.
a YouTuber.
Viable.
And my daughter wants to be an art teacher or a full-time artist. So they all have ideas already.
Nice.
They all have things in their mind. And it's funny because when I was that age, when people would ask me that question, I'd always say, I want to be a police officer. When I get older, I want to be a cop. And those things will change. They'll change
because there never were any Irish cops.
Never.
No.
Only in the movies. And only in Boston, I think. Mark Wahlberg.
I just saw a Mark Wahlberg movie that really was disappointed. It just came out last Friday night or the Friday before. And he played a disgraced former cop. And
was it Spencer Confidential?
Yes. Did you see that?
I just saw that.
Did you like it?
It was all right.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of
plot,
phoned in.
Man, same kind of plot.
Yeah, I mean, it's so predictable. But how about the first scene? What rock star was in the first scene? When he's just getting out and they try to beat him up in the library.
Oh, Post Malone.
Post Malone.
Yeah, Post Malone was in there.
Spreading his wings, getting in some acting now.
I recognize the face tattoos. But it is sort of like that plot, you know. It's kind of like there's a long period of time where the Adam Sandler movies all had basically the same plot, where he was like the goofy good guy that's going to save the day at the end of the movie, you know.
And one of my favorite movies was Uncut Gems. Uncut Gemstones? Uncut Gems. I honestly, swear to God, think it was the best movie that it should have been nominated and should have won for the Best Picture Oscar. Send in your hate mail. Send it in. I'll take it. I can accept it.
Send it to Tim. Don't send it to
And it never even got any nominations at all. And the reason is because Adam Sandler is known for these quirky and a whole crap load of ones that are really kind of subpar.
Sure.
He got that 5-picture deal with Netflix, and some of those are just phoned in. You're really phoned in. I mean, it's just,
but he got out of that comfort zone, which is admirable. So
often it's said that an Oscar is given for a body of work. It's not just for one picture, and especially now the supporting actors and actors, that'll go to quirky roles. You can be a one of to get a supporting. But the main one, which would have been, he would have been nominated for the best actor, the actual main roles, which are best actor, best actress. You got to have a body of work to win that. You know, Joaquin Phoenix won for best actor for Joker, but it wasn't just on the strength of Joker. It was on the strength of what was the Johnny Cash one that he did? That he got nominated, didn't win?
Walk the Line.
Walk the Line, yeah. He was amazing in that. Unbelievable in that.
That movie is almost as good as Walk Hard, The Legend of Dewey Cox. Dude, that movie's amazing. I don't care what anybody says. That movie is awesome. It really is.
John C. Reilly. I love John C. Reilly.
So much goodness
John
in that
C.
movie.
Reilly. Oh, shout out, man. You are amazing.
Yeah, he really is. You just love the guy, man. You can't help it.
But my favorite John C. Reilly thing is a serious role. Is it Chicago, the musical Chicago? He sings the song Cellophane. I'm Cellophane. It's in the early part of the movie when it's set in the role. He's the cuckold husband, and his wife cheats on him, and he says, "I'm cellophane. Nobody can see through me." Because when that was written, cellophane, there wasn't like plastic. That's an old musical, I believe, and it's a period piece. And he said he wanted to. I read the things. He really wanted that role mainly because he wanted to sing that song.
Wow. Glitch in the Matrix.
I think that's a signal that we should close out for the day.
One question before we close out. Was his singing in that movie as good as his drumming in Step Brothers?
I guess I don't remember the drumming in Step Brothers. Was it good?
It was pretty good. It's a great movie.
He's a quality guy, but he's here we go.
Freaking me out.
I think we better close out.
I think while we're still here. While we're still in this dimension. It's getting glitchy. Peace, everybody.
See you next time.